The officers were met with a heartbreaking scene. The call itself was unsettling, but what they saw was downright despairing. How long had it been since this poor old woman got something to eat? Why was she all alone, with no one to take care of her? Whatever the case was, they couldn't just stand there. But what could they do to a poor, starving old woman? Hello everyone, and welcome to our latest video. Today, we have a story of unexpected kindness stepping in to save the day. Before we give you the details of this heartwarming tale, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember to click that little bell icon so you'll never miss a story. How often do we blame police officers? We call them criminal one too many times, painting them to be cold and ruthless executioners. But that is not always the case. In fact, most police officers are kind and good people. It's just that it's human nature to let something bad overtake and erase out all the good. The negative aspects always gain more attraction. But the world isn't a bad place, and neither is the police force. There's good in people, which far outweighs the bad. If you're not convinced, stick around till the end of the story. We can guarantee that your perspective will change. In a house, a little away from the Florence Police Department, sat an 87-year-old woman, alone in her house. She was in pain, and she had not eaten in days. The poor woman had no one to turn to, and could not even go out to get something to eat. Hesitantly, she picked up the phone and dialed 113, the Italian version of 911. Now, police officers are used to receiving all kinds of strange calls. So when they picked up a call one quiet evening, they were ready for just about anything but what they just heard. A shaky old voice spoke apologetically. She said that she had nothing to eat for days, and that she was unable to prepare anything by herself. She had no option but to call emergency services. "I'm tired and I'm hungry, but I can't cook because I have a bad arm," she told the operator. The officer was shocked. It was devastating that an old woman was pushed to a situation where she had to reach out to local law enforcement for assistance because she was unable to feed herself. The operator reassured her, saying, "Madam, tell me where you are calling from and don't worry, we will solve everything." And he meant every word of his reassurance. He quickly forwarded the message to two officers who rushed to her place. Officers Antonio and Giuseppe arrived at her house in no time, but things were not going to be smooth sailing. They knocked on the door several times, but there was no answer. The officers were no strangers to pranks. It was unfortunate that a little too much of their time was spent responding to fake emergencies. Had they been pranked? Was this someone's sick joke? They knocked again, as a chilling thought ran through their minds. Maybe it was a real emergency. Perhaps they were too late. They banged on the door with renewed energy. They were praying that nothing unfortunate had befallen the old lady. Finally, a neighbor heard the noise. She kindly let the officers in, adding that the old lady could not open the door by herself. The officers were relieved that nothing had happened to the lady. They walked inside, looking for the lady. They looked all over the house, but they couldn't find anyone. First the door, now this? What was going on here? It was strange enough that someone called emergency services, saying that they were starving. Finally, they found the old lady lying in her bed. The poor thing hadn't had a proper meal in days, and she was at her wit's end. The officers' hearts melted at the sight. They quickly stepped to her side to help her. Antonio and Giuseppe got her seated comfortably and wheeled her to the kitchen. They were beyond curious as to how this dear lady ended up in such a sad situation. The old lady was simply happy for the company. They asked the woman why she was all alone, and she admitted that she actually had a son. But the dear woman did not want to be a burden on her son. She did not want to bother his busy schedules. Besides, the old woman had an assigned caretaker, but the caretaker had suddenly stopped turning up. So, she tried to fix herself something to eat. She tried her best to live without being a burden to anyone, but then her arm began to hurt. Although she was no stranger to cooking, it wasn't as easily accomplished as it may have been once upon a time. The old lady was downcast. She said that she could not finish because the pain in her arm was too much to bear, and the hunger and exhaustion quickly took hold of her, and her exertions soon tired her out. With no place to turn to, she dialed emergency services. The officers threw their job descriptions out of the window. At the end of the day, their job was to help people, to keep them safe. Here was an abandoned old lady with no one to help, a lady who was starving in her own house. They couldn't just turn their backs. This is where we want you to rethink your opinion about the officers. They could have just turned her over to some social services or ordered some food to her place and left things at that, or even walked away. Since there was no danger in this situation, they could have told the old lady that she should just call her son or a caretaker service and walked out of the situation. But they didn't. Officers Antonio and Giuseppe did not have the heart to leave this poor lady alone. Their kind and sympathetic hearts melted at this poor woman's plight. No, they were not the type of people who turned away from someone in need. They were going to do whatever they could to make this poor woman comfortable. This dear woman didn't just need food, they realized. She needed some loving care after all the trouble she went through. And all because she didn't want to trouble anyone. Some takeout food didn't seem appropriate for the situation, so they got down to making her a proper home-cooked meal. A quick look into the kitchen told the officers that there was just not enough food in the house to even cook a meal. The officers didn't even want to think about what would have happened to this poor old lady if no one took her call seriously. The officers did some shopping at their own expense and brought the necessary ingredients. Their empathetic ways had already moved the dear old woman's heart, but they were not finished just yet. Antonio and Giuseppe were determined to make sure that this old lady was made comfortable in every way possible. Once the old lady was settled in at the kitchen and the officers got everything they needed, they got down to work. Starkly different to their usual patrolling and other work, they would now get down to making a home-cooked pasta for an old lady. Together, the officers cooked up a wonderful tomato ravioli. The old lady was delighted. Not only was she going to enjoy a proper meal in days, it was a meal prepared in her own home, especially for her. The smile on her face was worth it all. The lines of worry and exhaustion disappeared as the food was set in front of her. She breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the worst was over. The officers watched in delight at the old lady's happiness. The officers went even further in their attempts to help the old lady. They helped her eat the delicious pasta they cooked for her. Fortunately, that exact moment was caught on camera, and the photo has been circulating online. It also moved many hearts. The heartwarming scene has gone viral online. People's hearts melted at their kind gesture as they saw just how caring these officers were to a stranger. On Reddit, the photo caught the attention of thousands of users who applauded the policemen for going well beyond their normal call of duty for the 87-year-old woman. Policemen like Antonio and Giuseppe are irreplaceably precious for this world. They deserve all the appreciations as they are willing to go extra miles just to help someone in need. The officers entered the woman's house and, after understanding her needs, immediately set to work, whether it was their job to do so or not. The officers understood that the woman was not just hungry, but was also longing for someone who will take time to talk to her. Instead of bringing her some food so she could eat, they just cooked for her and spent some time with her. They did not just fill her stomach with food, but they also filled her heart with so much joy. They went above and beyond their work duties to make sure that the people who were under their care got what they needed. They proved that there is more good in this world than bad, that there are people who care about the well-being of strangers, and that there are people willing to go the extra mile for another person. What would you have done if you were in the officer's position? Let us know in the comments below. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories like this. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.